everywhere, GBS.
Good morning once again, and welcome to GBS Morning Extra. My name is Tom Mwema. And as I said earlier, we are going to talk about the real estate market and affordable housing program. That's among the Agenda 4 Jubilee government's policy that the President Uhuru Kenyatta is expecting to maybe to leave a legacy that housing area. But now the president has given priority to housing. But now the question is how practicable is this program, because there have been a lot of questions from people, and especially questioning the repayment method, and employees have to contribute to 1.5%. But now let's look at the Jubilee's affordable housing agenda.
Fellow Kenyans, the Housing Fund is the second entity through which the delivery of affordable housing programs shall be supported. The creation of the fund was informed by the need to bridge the gap between the haves and the have-nots by creating a framework through which the traditionally unbanked can access financing towards home ownership. Unfortunately, the implementation of the Housing Fund levy as a mandatory contribution for both employees and employers has at every turn been fraught with legal hurdles and obstacles. It is my hope that these hurdles will be overcome without further undue delay to ensure implementation. This will allow all Kenyans who wish to take advantage of this life-changing initiative to realize their dream of owning a modern, decent home in a rent-to-own purchase arrangement. Already, as we speak, over 216,000 Kenyans have demonstrated their confidence in the affordable housing program by registering with the Boma Yangu initiative.
Okay, welcome back to GBS Morning Extra. And this morning I'm honored to be joined by Urithi Housing Cooperative Limited, Mr. Samuel Maina.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning to you.
Thank you so much for honoring our invitation.
My pleasure to be here.
And before we venture into the Urithi business, let's now talk about the president's agenda. First of all, what do you make of the affordable housing agenda?
It is not only timely, but very, very important in terms of changing and transformation of lives. Because when you have a home, it helps you grow other facets of your existence. And the gaps that we have witnessed in our country, especially in the affordable housing segment, is that there is always a shortfall of over 200,000. There are pertinent issues that need to be addressed about affordable housing, namely the location, the geographical spread, and also the affordability. The component of affordability, again, is something we are not really addressing. 1,000 units per year in Kenya. And that cumulatively has been raised to almost 1 million shortfall. And it keeps on increasing as there is rural-urban migration. But having said that, housing affordable is an integration of several factors, namely the cost of land, and the cost of land is determined by proximity to development. The other, and how far it is, of course, from the commercial centers and from the road and other social infrastructure. So that informs the cost of land. And you realize that that is the first handle, because the more affordable the land is, the more further it is from those centers. So for people to reach to their places of work and other conveniences, they need to be close to them. And to be close to them, it means the cost of land becomes another question. The other thing is the technology you want to use. again, this has been a very, very serious discussion. For us to make a house cost effective, we must mitigate on the costs of construction based on the technology. You see, the technology that we want to embrace, that is non-conventional. It is not cheap, but faster. But for you to accelerate that kind of construction, you need money. So it comes to the other component of affordability, that is the cost of financing. Who has access to this money? Again, you realize that most of the local players cannot raise that money upfront. So they have to depend either on banks. When you bring banks, you bring the aspect of interest rate and what have you. When you get money from offshore, again, there are other dynamics that comes into play. And the local players now becomes very, very squeezed into a tight corner. Yeah. And then the cost of materials, when we look at, if you are to buy these materials in retail quantities, again, it becomes very expensive, cost of labor and other aspects of affordability. So we cannot talk of affordable housing without looking at the whole spectrum of what is required to make a house affordable.
Okay, now the government is talking about creating a mortgage scheme.
Yes.
Create a mortgage scheme for employees.
Yes.
And now you have also raised an important question. I was also coming to that. Now we have this scheme. Now the question is, how will these houses be given to maybe to people working in the city, in a city setup? Maybe someone wants a house maybe within the city. Then the land is also a question. Yes. Land, first of all, in the urban areas is very expensive. Yes. So do you see a scenario where maybe they are going to affect, maybe the government is going to affect maybe the pricing of the, or maybe have a mechanism to control the land price, because that's the elephant in the room. If the land is expensive, meaning that the house, of course, will be more expensive.
Yes, and this is the daunting question that we need to seriously interrogate. If you look at the cost of land, we ask ourselves, who owns this land? Apart from the county government that might have a land free for development, private players will have to buy land, like ourselves, like we have to buy land and compete with the same people. They have the infrastructure and the machinery to build. So there must be some support systems whereby either the government donates the land and a developer comes and puts in those houses, or they look for certain waivers that will make it possible for other players to do it. Because again, we are in a very squeezed position whereby you are told to source for land, and you are also given the BQs, the bill of quantities, and it is priced for you, so that when the government is pricing and telling you that a 1-bedroom will cost 1 million, and 2-bedroom 2 million, and 3-bedroom 3 million, I fought that in the first place, because it is not possible. A house that costs 1 million, 2-bedroom cannot cost 2 million. You know, the difference should be very slight. But again, what informs the pricing? It must be informed by other variables that I have articulated before. So the question therefore is, we must address the question of land, the question of technology, the question of financing, and the question of uptake. The critical dilemma here is that the private players, like the cooperative world where I belong, we have the demand side of the demand side, whereas these other developers have what we call the supply side, meaning they can come up with money, they can come up with technology, they can even afford land, but they don't have partakers, the off-takers. But we have off-takers, but we don't have the other components. So how do we synergize what we have plus what we don't have so that we can make it complete? For example, I would wish that these people would come and team up with the cooperatives and ask them, you have 30,000 members. And the 30,000 members that you have, you need to house them, and you know them, and you have the machinery to get to them, and also to follow up their payments and organize them. So what do you need? We provide money for you to accelerate the process. But you see, when you are left alone and the government is doing their things parallel without taking care of the other players, we feel a bit shortchanged. And more importantly, because we've been in this space for the last few years, 5 or so years, I've been able to deliver houses as already, and we have people living affordably, and perhaps affordable than what the government is prescribing. This is devoid of any support. We've not had any support whatsoever. So we struggle with our members to raise the capital, to raise money to buy land, to raise money for construction, which is very challenging. Owing to the
That
fact
comes
that,
in.
yes,
That brings up another question.
Yes.
Do you say that the government launched this affordable housing program without involving the private sector?
yes, we were not involved because I've not seen that concerted effort to try to understand the terrain we operate under. I think there was no proper buy-in, and that's why it has taken so long, because for the government to take 2 years talking about affordable houses, it means that there's something that they did not get right. For example, we need to have laid down a very clear infrastructural system of doing that, the roll-up program and the implementation matrix. How so? For us to make these houses affordable, we need to ask ourselves, who are the consumers? Number two, how do we implement even this mortgage scheme? Number three, how do we source for funds? Number four, how do we follow up the payment so that we can reach out to these people? And the people, for example, that are being taxed today, you cannot force me to belong to a scheme that I don't need. Look at the people who are employed and who are likely to be deducted this money. These are people either with their own houses or in another scheme through their cooperatives. The other thing is that, and I keep on vouching for cooperatives, is because 9 out of 10 houses are built by cooperatives. And any house you see in the rural area belongs to a teacher, a doctor, somebody who belongs to a cooperative movement or a circle. So that tells you that there are players already in the system. Yeah. So what we needed to do is to use the same infrastructure without reinventing the wheel and make the demand side to drive the agenda. The other thing is that we also ought to have protected the local players, the local industry, so that there is a quota system that says that a certain percentage of this construction will go to the cooperatives, because we know the GDP of our country, over 40% comes from the cooperative movement. Okay, and that is a question that has not been addressed.
Okay, if I may cut you short, sorry for that. Now, it has been 2 years since the government started pushing this agenda.
Yes.
Now, the government is remaining 3 years, and they are promised to build 500,000 units. How possible is this? And is there a room that the now government can now come in and maybe have a private, public-private partnership at this point?
We keep on talking about this in terms of the support that we need in this industry. For example, even if it's through 3 years or 4 years, the organizations are perpetual. Like if you take an organization, already existing organization like Uridi, it to fulfill that within their tenure. But having said that, I don't want to see it from that perspective. I would want to see it beyond a certain regime, because a house is a very everlasting thing. That is something that goes beyond 5, 10 to outlive the current regime. So whatever programs that might be supported will surpass maybe a certain time period, depending on the government of the day. But we also know this has a political angle, because the architects of this are in the government for long. So the best thing, therefore, is to raise very formidable structures to make sure that this is realized, one, in the shortest time possible. And the best way to do it is that we already have existing players in this industry. And I'm giving myself as an example. I know the demand of housing. Out of the 30,000 members that I have, I can provide houses for all of them and still grow that membership. And there are other cooperatives that belong to other places. And I've been given this probably crying in the wilderness around, that what if the government would have come up with a revolving fund and use it through the circles and give them a loan? Most of us went to school through HELB, Higher Education Loans Board. We paid, and maybe the money I paid educated you, and the other one, it revolves, and you keep on using that money. What is wrong in giving circles that revolving fund? Not actually as a loan, maybe at a discounted interest, and the circles will on lend to their members, and they keep on paying, they return the money, and they circulate. So we just need to have a basket where they'll be borrowing and paying back. They have ways and mechanism of following up. They have customers, and they have their space. So that one has not been addressed, and it has become an academic discussion, the affordable housing. And the people who want to deliver these affordable houses, most of them do not understand. They are commercial entrepreneurs. They are coming to rake in money from this big idea, but they are not interrogating the desire of the president when he talked of giving people decency, of affordability, and living in an environment where people will have their human dignity restored.
But there's a question of
yes,
there's a question of a matter of trust.
yes.
Majority of the government schemes have all flopped, and people have contributed to those schemes, and majority of them have flopped. Now, what do you make of this? Is this now going to be another bubble that might burst anytime soon, or do you think it could be better if the government entrusted you, who already have members who already trust you, to implement the whole housing project?
It goes back to the same question I raised. Do you start with the demand, or do you start with the supply? If you start with supply, like the government is approaching it, that we provide houses and we look for people as of takers, you get it wrong. But when you start with demand, for example, I know what my members want. I know they want this kind of houses. I know their demographics. I know so many other things, even their financial capability. And that one we can negotiate before. So I think the government should address that issue from a point of facilitation, not provision. So the government cannot build houses, and therefore they should not have a lot of business to do with the wherewithals of implementation. What they should be thinking about at this point is, how do they enable the players in the industry to deliver? Because the work of the government is to oversee and to enable the players to deliver into the vision. But when the government is seen to be playing a part in the delivery by not giving the players the space they need, it brings a lot of confusion in the industry. Because why would we sacrifice the local players in favor of maybe people who are coming to do these things in total disregard of the people who have been in the industry? Okay. For example, look at the sizes that they are prescribing. Some of those sizes cannot even fit very well to the consumption, because when you talk of the print or the size, the dimensions of a room, we know what is conventional. When you go to China, for example, there is what they have very small families, and they just need very small space. These are people without a lot of relatives and other people, you know. Culturally, they need a smaller house and they can live as high as they want. But you come to a local, space, you realize that you have your in-laws, you have so many people. So there's that room that you cannot fit in, no matter how affordable it is. The other thing that we need to address is the issue of, at what time does the house become a necessity? Food, shelter, and clothing, the basic human needs. Without food, without shelter, in other words, without disposable income, housing becomes secondary. So we must also address other secondary needs of a person, because if I live in a nice house and I'm hungry, if I live in a nice house and I cannot afford the school fees, medical care, and what have you, that house will not have a meaning. And that's why if you go and pitch a very nice house in a slum area, those people, even if you move them there, they can only move out and rent it or sell it, because it does not make sense to them. Okay. So we must also address other issues that make people not afford land. And if you give people disposable income by making their lives more comfortable and happier, they will have money to save, to buy houses and to build.
So I think that the government could have given priority to other issues, because of course, if people have the money power, of course they will sort of the housing issue.
That is true, because if you look at the drivers of economy and what makes the triggers of development, there are those things that stimulate economic growth. And when there is money, for example, there is money circulating freely and people are making money in their businesses and other areas, affording a house becomes very easy. Owning land becomes very easy, because you save something. But even if you give me a house that I cannot afford to service loan for, we will also have another problem of people defaulting, people also going to courts and all that. And you can imagine getting people into these houses, but you cannot throw them out after 2 or 3 years. So we must come up with very clear structures of making sure that this person has money, and the money that they would have otherwise used to rent, they own. This rent to own thing. But again, it is not as easy as you want to understand, to believe, because who has control of these people? Again, you can only get them through formal systems like cooperatives. So why the government is not listening to cooperatives in a big way? I'm talking of Kenya having 22,000 registered cooperatives. And that is an infrastructure enough that can reach every corner of this country. And nobody can ignore that constituency. We have 14 million members of cooperatives in this country. That is more than a combined force of the voters who voted for both sides, political divide. So this is a constituency that somebody should say, this is how we can implement that using what we have. And I'm not against anybody coming from whatever country and from offshore, because they are also coming to support the local industry. But there must be involvement of local players so that, again, our space will not be encroached in a way that will be extinct in a few years to come.
Okay, I also believe you are an employer.
Yes.
And of course, there also the dispute between employer contributing to employees 1.5 and employees contributing the other 1.5 to the financing of the housing program. But I want us to take a breather, then come back and talk about that financing. Is really ready to pay for their employees that 1.5%, and where have you reached with this debate? We'll talk about that on the other side of the break. Okay, we're now taking a quick breather. We'll be back with more. Of course, keep sending your questions about, of course, about housing and about really cooperative. The chairman is here to respond to all your questions in a moment. But now, let's take a breather.
There are even smarter ways to enjoy life. Just pay your DSTV account on time and unlock amazing rewards. It really is that simple with DSTV Thanks.
Welcome viewers to Talk to Rosemary Njagi show. The Bible says, seek ye the kingdom of God and his righteousness. Amen. Amen. Amen.
Oh my, have I provoked you? Then take action.
Different artists. Different choirs.
Rescue me, shine. Pump me with your Holy Spirit.
Different praise and worship. I tell you, this is a show where we bring the best of the best.
It's amazing.
Yes. And shalom.
Tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. And Fika Institute of Business Studies, we give you an opportunity to prepare for tomorrow through unrivaled courses enhanced with practical skills.
We will engage you both in class and out of class, and you shall come out a very different person.
We organize attachment for our students.
Wow, this is the place to be.
Fika Institute of Business Studies, the highway to future success.
Baba ki mama ne ka bueno te roca yoga ne oka chango jale ne oka chango taya. You are watching the People's Show in GBS. Don't miss it.
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back to GBS Morning Extra. My name is Tom Mwem, and of course we are talking about the affordable housing in Kenya, and of course there has been a lot of pertinent issues that the government is yet to address. And getting for the comment, I have a Bethel Kipkirui from Eldoret is asking Mr. Chairman, what happens if I have a mortgage and then the government forces me to get another house or pay for another mortgage? That is more of gambling, because it's not guaranteed that if I contribute I'll get a house. Also other issue that you had also raised earlier.
Yes.
And of course, we have someone called Blasio. He doesn't say where he comes from. And he's asking, is Urithi available in Mombasa? And of course, you respond to that. Of course, because of interest of time, let's first of all focus on those two issues. First of all, there's the issue of the funding, the financing.
This is a very tricky situation that has been raised, because when we charge people for mortgage, we ask ourselves, do they require that mortgage in the first place? And there are so many people who may not be in a mortgage scheme, so that there is no platform to deduct them. And the people that we deduct may not require that mortgage. And if they require the mortgage, maybe it is not in the manner, in the fashion it has been prescribed. So I see a situation whereby it will raise so many litigations, and that is why it is still stuck in the court, because people are saying we are not ready for this. And it is good to listen to people so that we can target specifically people who want to benefit from that scheme. And you cannot force people to be in a scheme that they are not comfortable in. The other thing is people are feeling already burdened by this taxation regime. So the point is, how do we carry our people in a way that whatever deductions we are making through mortgage or other schemes, they are comfortable with. So that is a question that the government must address. And as much as they want to force it down the throat of people, the mood is not very ripe for that. And you can see the resistance and the discord that people have. The other question is whether we are in Mombasa, yes, in Harbour House, Moi Avenue, and we are present, and we are doing some projects there.
Okay, you have your offices in Mombasa?
We have our offices in Mombasa.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. There's also an issue of the financing scheme. Raises a lot of questions. First of all, the government has not come out clear to say whether if you contribute, you will get the house. Is it a guarantee that you get the house? It's not yet clear about that, or from your understanding from the industry. They're saying if you contribute the 1.5 and the employer contributes the 1.5, you may qualify for the state mortgage. The use of the word may, what does that mean?
Of course, it is not automatic, because it is demand driven, again, and the supply driven. And right now we have over 200 people, 200,000 people who have shown interest. But again, we ask ourselves, have we been able to sieve through the list? Because they could be interested, but they have not been appraised. And we have a way of reaching them. Look at that person in the informal sector who wants a house, and they don't have regular income, and they are not even employed. How do you reach them? Because those are the people who need houses more than anybody else. And these are the people we are addressing as cooperatives because they are our members, and we also have, there is a way they can guarantee one another. It becomes very easy because you come with your friend, you take a loan, and you do whatever you want. The other thing that the government must seriously address is the rural housing, because we are all talking about affordable houses based in towns. But there are so many other people who want to have decent homes in the rural setups. In the issue of land will be addressed because you do it in your own land somewhere. Okay. You want to have decent houses for our parents, for our grandparents. We also want to have rural homes. Okay. So when we are addressing the issue of affordable houses, let's also take cognizance of the fact that there are a majority of people living in rural setups that also want to have decent housing. Okay. And it must be very holistic. Who else can reach all those areas? Again, it is the cooperative and the circles that are present in every corner of the country. And cooperative now can deduct the money through the milk they sell, through the coffee they sell, through the fish they sell, and they have a way of harnessing their activities and following up. So the government should not be crying in the rain. They must also come out and see, so that we can see those tears and say, who are really addressing this issue of affordability. And let's not commercialize this agenda of affordable housing, because the people who are very passionate about it keep on hammering that point, because how do you do a house in Karachuonyo? How do you do a house in some very interior places in Muranga and in Malindi? It is only through the cooperative that operates. Commercial entrepreneurs. Okay. They are not the people who really feel the pain of not owning a house, and they don't understand what it means to have affordable housing. So again, let's deal with people who genuinely feel that they want to provide and occupy this space based on the vision of the president.
Okay. There's also a question of as a private property player in the industry. Now, is this housing program a threat to your industry?
Yes and no. Yes, yes, because in one way or another, when you have a lot of you oversupply in a product, the satellite cities in the country, you realize that we've had a lot of houses coming up. Most of these people borrowed money from the bank and to put up those houses. When the government again comes and says that those who are already in the space will get swallowed up. Look at the private practitioners, private players who have invested a lot of, if you walk along Kiambu Road and other, do the same things at very subsidized cost because the government has a muscle. What happens to this person? You'll not be able to service the loan. If you go to Westlands today and Upper Hill, we have people who have done houses, whether they are offices, and most of them are empty. Why are they empty? Because the supply has also not been controlled. So there has also to be a very well distributed system of these developments, so that again we don't concentrate everything together, and before you realize there are no people to occupy those houses. They will become ghost houses. And I imagine if you are not very careful, in 5-10 years to come, you'll be having so many buildings in town and they will not be occupied because the issue of demand and supply was not addressed, and the issue of takers was not addressed. That's why, again, I go back to the question of why can't we start with the consumer, the demand side. We know this one, we are making it for X, Y, Z, so that we are very sure of the partakers, and we'll have agreed before, and we have appraised them before. But when we do those houses in their millions, in their thousands, without interrogating on the partakers, it will come to haunt us in years to come.
Okay, I think we should talk more now about the Urithi Housing Cooperative Limited.
Right.
Because majority of the question that are asking about there's someone called another Samuel from Kisumu, not Samuel. He's asking him, how do I get assurance that the mortgage financier is genuine and is Urithi in Kisumu?
For now, we don't have Urithi cooperative presence in Kisumu. The nearest we have that direction is Eldoret. And about being genuine is based on our delivery history. And we have a very good delivery record, especially in affordable houses. Okay. We've been able to deliver houses, studio apartments at 500,000, We've delivered 2-bedroom at 1.5. We've delivered 3-bedroom at 3.6. And these are very competitive prices. There are challenges in the industry, I must admit, but that notwithstanding, we are very determined to make sure that we do what we believe we can do best. And we have addressed those issues of affordability by bringing up our members through what we call building together, owning together, without financing. Most of our projects have been financed by members without going to the bank, without going to the financial institutions, thereby reducing the cost of financing. It is also challenging in terms of implementation, but it is doable because we have done it in more than 10 projects, housing projects.
Okay, and in Busia we have Amina Hassan. It's asking, does Urithi have rental products? If yes, what are the rates?
We don't, for now we don't have rental products, but we are moving towards that direct. Next to universities, we want to do hostels for universities, and we give our members what we call own a room program, so that now you can rent out to students. That is a program we are rolling out in some of the universities. We only have one project that we tried that, but we handed over to our members who are getting the rent from the establishment. But we are hoping.
So you don't rent directly, but you can rent through your members?
Through the members.
Okay. Yes. And also there is a Jenga from Moyale is asking, how do you deal with the issue of unscrupulous contractors who bid substandard units?
Now, this what we call performance bond, where you sign before that, I'm going to deliver XYZ, and if I don't deliver, you are going to hold my money until I perfect that. Again, it is very tricky because when you're talking of contractors, some of them are very cheeky, and they'll come, get mobilization fee of 30% and then disappear. But having said that, we have very genuine local players who understand the terrain and the track record that they have. You can deal with it based on referrals from other areas that they have worked before.
And as a cooperative, do you have your contractors or
yeah,
your
we have internal contractors, and of course there are those that we do ourselves and others we outsource, depending on the magnitude of the project.
Okay. There's also a question from somebody called Amos from Kitengela. He's asking, can you really assist me in selling a property?
It depends on what property. We don't deal with small properties like I have a plot of 50 by 100. But if it is a big land, we can talk. We can even package it in a way that we can sell on his behalf. Okay. So if it is wholesale, we can address that issue.
So you can always strike a deal with it?
Yes, we do JVs. For example, you have land, we want to do development, we can do it together. We don't have to buy land. We can do it together and share the equity.
And is it a must for one to be a member to enjoy such privileges?
Yes, it's good to be a member because we like dealing with the members because they understand the organization. If you are not a member, you may not appreciate. You know, there is a way cooperatives work. Cooperatives are owned by members. And if you are not a member, you might not subscribe to certain tenets of the cooperative.
Okay, and what are the criteria of joining Urithi?
It's very simple. You register with 2,000 to become a member, and then you buy at least 2 shares of 7,000 each. That is 14,000 for shareholding and 2,000 for registration. 16,000, you are an active member, a shareholder and a member, because you have to be a member first, a shareholder. The advantages of being a shareholder is that you have a say in the movement. Number 2, you earn dividends. Number 3, you get subsidized prices, because when you buy as a member, you buy at discounted prices as opposed to when you are not a member.
Okay, and there's also a question of your pricing.
Yes.
Is your pricing the same with the house in Nairobi, maybe the one in Mombasa, and maybe the one in
Ours is seriously subsidized. Sometimes we sell at cost. We sell at cost just to break even. Remember, cooperatives are not profit motivated. The idea is to enable the members get what they came to get. In our case, they come to get houses and land. So there's no need of putting very big margins as long as you can break even. And sometimes when we sell houses like we've done in Kangudo Road at 1.62 bedroom, people don't understand how you deliver. you have to squeeze every coin and make sure that you mitigate on all cost aspects to make sure they are not only affordable but very subsidized.
Okay. There's also a question that, of course, you say the industry has a lot of challenges.
Yes.
And also, really has also been facing its own challenges
Yes.
as a part of the industry player. Now, we have the issue of these building and substandard buildings. Have you ever come across such issues in your corporation? And of course, the issue that you had a case with a certain bank. I don't want to mention the bank that's concerning the Panorama Gardens. Maybe you can address the two.
Yes, the issue of substandard houses is not anything that I think we've come across, but we have seen in the neighborhood. And this is because we have internal quantity surveyors and architects who supervise our construction, and they visit our construction site and advise, and then we have external ones. So we subscribe to the code of performance as prescribed in the law. The issue of Panorama, yes, it was raised, it was in the media, and the issue was about a facility we had with one of the local banks. Client relationship with the bank, it was not something that I would say had gone out of control. It is the correspondence. And what normally happens is that when you are not, I would not say that it was a case per se, but I think the information was leaked out about the correspondence in this era of social media. And
That's what I wanted you to clarify.
Yes, it went in the social media, but it was when you have not updated, for example, your payment, or you've not performed as expected in a month or 2 or 3, the bank can write to you. And that is what happened. They write to you and they tell you to regularize. And before you even reach the issue of auctioneering, there is what we call redemption notice. Redemption notice, you are told, kindly put your books in order so that now we can give you, a reprieve. These are normal borrowing practices that happens. Then even before you come to auction, there are steps that are supposed to be taken. We were at that stage of what we call redemption. And before you even come to auction, of course, people don't understand these things. And this is a facility that was taken 5 years ago. I mean, it was a 5-term loan, and we've gone 3 years, and there are still 2 years remaining of the loan term. Okay. So that information was not correct. Number 2, by the time it was leaked out to the social media, we had already regularized, and it was a 2 months discussion before. It's something that was outdated. Okay. But of course, with this, the competition and people trying to, to paint a certain picture, it went out as if we were in distress. We could be having challenges as it were, because the industry, if you look at the general performance of the real estate, it is a bit low because of the state of the economy, which cannot be blamed on one particular individual or organization. We are together in it. Why we are able to pay according to our members, again, activities and how well they are able to honor the obligations. Okay. So this is not an already affair. It was a project affair. Although we are the custodians, we have mechanisms of calling our members and addressing those issues of even raising the money. So I think the news that were even in the newspaper was in bad taste, and I believe we've been able to stabilize the situation and also address the issues, and we went back on track by addressing them with the bank and the members of the project.
So no one should be worried about the project. If someone is interested in the Panorama, can still get it.
In fact, this is the best time to get it.
Okay.
This is the best time to get it, because what we have paid substantially, almost 80%. Okay. So I don't think we can lose it because of that. There are other procedures like partial discharge, okay, in case you have these things. And let me hasten to say that these are normal procedures in business. Okay. Having a loan, paying, delaying in payment. There are other mitigations that you go through before you even go to that point of no return. So again, when people panic, is because, again, they don't understand how people engage in certain transactions.
Okay, I'm told we have 1 minute, so I'm going to donate that 1 minute to you and to look at this camera. This is the camera. You can maybe talk to members who would like to join Urithi, and probably if you have any upcoming project that you'd like them to maybe to buy, or if they want to join your corporation.
Yes, I am very appreciative of this opportunity given by GBS, and more importantly for giving me a chance to articulate very pertinent issues about the industry and about Urithi as an organization. We are very delighted to welcome anyone who would want to be a member. Urithi is a Swahili name for inheritance. It is an organization that endeavors to give hope to the generations to come. It is an organization that wants to go beyond what we are doing today by giving people a chance to invest in places that will make a difference in years to come today. So we accelerate tomorrow's growth today by creating opportunities before they happen. Okay. So Urithi is a place to be. We are in different places, counties, and if you perchance get an office near you, go there, register yourself, ask all the questions, and visit our sites, websites, and our other sites, and you are welcome. Urithi is home for many.
Okay, thank you so much, Samuel Maina.
Thank you
it's
for having us.
Okay, thank you so much. And of course, we have had a very candid discussion about real estate market, and also we are grateful to Urithi team because they gave one of the best experts to maybe deliberate all these issues. And now, of course, I hope now you understand how the whole industry works. But for now, we are going to take a break, but we'll be back with the sports news with Kevin Nyariki on the other side of the break.